Well, hello there and welcome to Business of Design, episode 227, 3 no's. No, 3 of them, count them, 3 of them, with Laura Elliott and LeAnne Bunnell. We are going to shake things up today. I am going to get some coaching from the Business of Design community, and we're going to kick off the show with quick announcements from Cheryl so we don't interrupt the flow of the conversation. And the conversation begins with introductions because Laura and LeAnne don't know each other. So you're going to hear Laura introduce herself, and then we're just going to have a conversation before the real conversation, which is about me needing help and advice on whether or not I should take on a new client. So as I said, we're going to kick things off with quick announcements from Cheryl. Cheryl Horn, take it away.
I will keep things quick because I'm actually really curious how this conversation went and, of course, whether or not you're going to take the job, but also where the conversation ended up going. We got an email from Laura after the podcast wrapped with a follow-up to your conversation, so I'm going to share that now. Hopefully it will make more sense once you listen to the rest of the episode, but I do want to make sure this is included. So Laura sent us this update on her client dilemma that I guess you guys ended up discussing. As soon as we ended the podcast, I immediately called my potential client to say no to both his project and the brother in the downstairs unit. However, as soon as I heard my client's sweet, happy tone of voice, I only had the heart to say no to the brother's basement project. But I actually feel really good about it. I told him that upon reflection and a good look at my calendar, I wouldn't be able to work on the downstairs unit until summer of 2022. And he was very understanding. In fact, he felt really lucky and appreciative that I was taking on his small decorating project right now. I decided that I am going to make some fairly drastic additions to the design that the other firm started by adding some exciting wallpaper and wow lighting. So it will end up feeling like I left my mark and get some good photos. Plus, the client has referral potential, so it may end up being a win-win for me in the end. The brother emailed me to say that he may consider waiting to do one of his bathrooms until next summer and would like to stay in touch. I should have said I was booked for 2 years, as LeAnne suggested. Before we get to the episode, I do want to make one announcement because coming out this week on June 14th are our 2021 contracts. Both the hourly and flat fee contracts have been updated, and they're actually quite different than the contracts that have been available for some time now. Not so much in principle and policy, more so the layout, the wording has really been fine-tuned. So that's coming out on Thursday, June 24th. If you purchase the existing contracts this year, anytime on or after January 1st, 2021, you are going to be upgraded to the newest versions automatically. Watch your inbox for full details. Anyone who's purchased the contracts at any time, they have been available for several years now, you're going to be able to upgrade for an upgrade fee of $95 to get that new version, and it is worth doing. And then the contracts will be available to anyone else. And of course, we still have our member pricing, and members will save $300 on each of those contracts. Both contracts come with a tutorial video where Kimberley walks you through the full contracts, explains everything that's in them, shares some stories that she shares with clients during the consultation to explain those sections to you. And we're really looking forward to it. They've been long awaited. So without further ado, let's get back to the show because I'm really excited to hear this conversation.
Welcome to the Business of Design podcast with Kimberley Selden. Business of Design is the world's best business training for interior design professionals like you. We have the systems, strategies, and protocols you need to consistently satisfy clients, increase profitability, and run your projects like a boss. Unlike traditional coaching, BOD is a fast track to immediate results. Don't try to do this alone. Join today and you'll have access to hundreds of targeted training modules, plus member perks like BOD live events, member-only podcasts, preferred pricing, and the support of an engaged community of peers. We all know design matters. At Business of Design, we think designers matter too.
And And now back to the show. And as I mentioned, you're going to first hear Laura Elliott, who's just introducing herself to LeAnne Bunnell. And then the conversation just takes on a life of its own. I will get to the main topic, which is help. I'm not sure if I'm going to take these clients or not. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, LeAnne. I am Laura Elliott. I'm the owner of Refined Interiors. I'm a business, interior design business out of Berkeley, California. And
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. I just checked out your website. It's beautiful.
Here's LeAnne Bunnell.
Oh, thank you. It's really, we are probably 3 or 4 days away from actually doing a new website. So that's coming out.
Me too.
Soon. Oh, really?
Yes.
It's so much work.
I know. I have more photos to get to them. And then when I got the call to be on this podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, we definitely need to have this updated before it airs.
Oh, I know. Me too. And then I've been busy. Like, don't you find it's like a chance to sort of reimagine everything? Like absolutely everything about how you present yourself and like, you know, you look at your projects in a different way too. It's kind of like, oh, is this one good enough anymore? It used to be like, you know, really good. Now, is it?
Definitely. I totally
Don't you find like a project you felt really, really good about like 5 years later? You're like, what was I thinking? Like, who would ever have paid me for that? I guess we shouldn't say that out
Yes,
loud.
I hope nobody saw this.
I know, it's so true. But you know, wasn't there a podcast that you did, Kimberley, that was about how good it is to sort of go back and look at some of your early projects to see how far you've come? Because we kind of were very self-critical, you know, as we go through and finish projects, and we kind of like, you know, the drapery this or that sofa that or whatever it is. And then you go back to some of your early projects and you're like, oh, okay, I have done a good job. I've come a long way. So.
Yeah. And then I have to remember the early stuff, like there was a client involved and she maybe wanted that lamp or sofa or whatever. You know what I mean? I guess it's like an artist. I think the minute a fine artist finishes a canvas, they like it for like 5 minutes and then they hate it and think it's the worst thing they've ever done. I feel that way a lot.
It's very true.
All right. We're
I
already
also find too, like I was thinking,
what?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Chatting.
No, I'm just starved for like social interaction. So
I know. It's crazy because California is like open for business. Like it's so different there right now, of course, but California was terrible December and January when Toronto and Canada was great. So Toronto and Canada had it afterwards, and we're just coming out of it. And it's been a bit of a shell shock, I must say.
Yeah. It feels really good for it to be coming open. And next week, I think no one needs to wear masks at all. And it's just amazing. I had clients that I literally don't know what they look like, like this past year.
Isn't that so weird?
I don't. I would not be able to see them on the street. I wouldn't recognize them on the street.
Yeah, it's so true. I had a new staff member and I was like, oh. She took her mask the other day, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
what is half as good?"
You paint an imaginary picture of what they will look like, and sometimes you're totally wrong.
I know, it's very true.
That's
very
hilarious.
True.
Oh my gosh!
Well, we're almost there.
Yes. All right. And this was an SOS call. I reached out to Cheryl the other day. I had a consultation, and she said, "How did it go?" And I said, I don't know. I just can't decide how I feel about it. And I don't know if it's like post-traumatic COVID syndrome. And I'm just like, don't really want to work that hard. Or if there are red flags I should be paying attention to. So, this is the community I turn to, Business of Design community. Thank you both, Laura Elliott, LeAnne Bunnell. Laura's from Berkeley, California. LeAnne is from Calgary, Alberta. Obviously, the three of us live in three different places, have a totally different experience. I just wanted to get your insight on a consultation I went to and see what you have to say.
All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
All right. So I go to the consultation. It's about an hour and a half away from anywhere I live, kind of thing. And it's a lovely setting. It's on a golf course, really pretty kind of like water views. The house from the outside is so beautiful. It's really kind of Zen meets Frank Lloyd Wright, almost Japanese, but could be, from Pasadena, California. Like I just loved it. And then when I went inside, there's a major disconnect between what the outside of the house looks like and what the inside of the house looks like. And it didn't help because the clients had just moved in and there are boxes everywhere, right? So it's kind of hard to tell, right, in that situation. This is so boring because I'm doing all the talking, but you guys are going to do all the talking as soon as I explain what happened. So it turns out that she's inherited many fine, beautiful antiques from a relative, and they really are pretty. I mean, the kind of antiques we haven't had the pleasure of working with in well over a decade. It would be so fun to get your hands on something like that, I just think. And he, on the other hand, has a whole bunch of contemporary, pretty modern artwork. So, and there's this Japanese Zen house. Do I even need to say any more? Well,
I can start. This is Laura. I just had an experience like that last year, my first COVID project, actually. And these clients, wonderful people. So you'll also have to let us know how you felt if you connected with the clients. But they were amazing clients, and their existing furniture was definitely dated, but they had some amazing pieces that go back centuries in the family, heirlooms. There's one chair called a prisoner's chair that literally, it's so cool looking. And then you sit down in it and you get locked in, your legs get locked into this chair. You can't stand up, especially if you panic.
Oh my gosh, I needed that.
Like a really cool piece.
I needed that chair when my kids were little. My son is ADHD. I would have locked him in that chair all the time. Cooper, if you're listening, of course he's not listening.
God, yeah, perfect.
But that's hilarious and scary. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. They, of course, trick everybody on their first time looking at it, and I panicked when I sat in it. But so anyway, there's that piece. There was an amazing trunk that has this whole history to it. I mean, just lots of fun pieces. But I was a little bit scared because I don't usually work with antiques, and I wasn't really sure how is this going to work with the rest of the furniture that I'm imagining for this space. And they wanted to get rid of most of their other stuff and update everything. So we ended up making it work, and it actually wasn't as hard as I thought. And it just all fell into place. Once you just start sourcing, things are going to fall into place. And we found the perfect spot for everything. And the house doesn't feel modern. It doesn't feel traditional. It's just somewhere in the middle. And I wouldn't call it transitional either. It's just got a lot of character and interest.
I totally want to circle back to what you said about the clients. In fact, let me just interject and say, it's interesting that you mentioned if I like the clients. I thought they were really sweet. I really did like them. I liked both of them. I'm not sure they're on the same page. That I couldn't quite make out. So that's just an added layer. Okay, so you started to tell a story, LeAnne.
Yeah, so Mark and I were having this conversation, and we were discussing work in different situations. I had a new client consultation yesterday that is a little out of our comfort zone, out of our realm, but interesting. So something that's interesting. It's not anything glamorous like antiques, but we were just sort of talking about how having those constraints on a project or when you're launching something are sometimes they look like a negative at the beginning, but can really help provide you with, the ability to be more creative and the ability to work just that little bit harder to come up with a better result than if you had like no constraints at all. And he was talking about for his company and his work that he does, and he just came through a process where he was given a constraint that he balked against at the beginning, and then in the end resulted in something that he said was really better than anything they probably could have produced without it. So I think that's sometimes how you have to look at these projects, where it's like, ooh, this is tough, and it's not anything that has been done before, right? Like trying to meld maybe really disparate styles into something that's a cohesive whole that, like you said, Laura, about that's, very personality driven rather than really style driven. And sometimes that gives me a little bit more comfort because I know where my boundaries are, like what I need to work within. I always say it's really hard. I don't hate it. That's a strong word, but it puts me on edge when people say, whatever you want, whatever you think is best, LeAnne, because I like to have this sort of, not restriction, but I like to know what the boundaries are of my clients, because if I was going to do whatever I wanted, it would be my house. And I don't want it to be my house. I want it to be their house.
Okay, so really good feedback so far. So what I envisioned in my mind as a way to LeAnne's point, make it kind of coalesce, is kind of a funky Soho house where you've got great molding, the odd piece of antique furniture, and then super modern artwork and stuff like that. So I could kind of see that. And I do know what you're both saying, that sometimes that forces you to be more creative. So I would say that's on the plus side of the category. The budget that they threw out is probably a third of what they need. And I'm concerned that they actually don't have the other 2/3, making them still wonderful clients who have a great project. But is this the project I want to take on? And the second question I want to ask you guys is, let's say I take the project on. You're both redoing your websites now. Where the hell does this project fit on my website? Is this the kind of job I want in the future? Is it the job I'm going to photograph? Oh my God, there's so much. Go.
Yeah. I think, Kimberley, you're in an enviable position, that you can decide whether or not this fits within your, portfolio. If it's someplace you want to stretch into, like, is this an area or a field of work that you think you'd like to explore more? And if not, you brought up earlier about how much work it would be to try to maybe meld two different homeowners' perceptions too of how they want the house to look, and also how much work is that, how much hand-holding is that, how much psychic energy does that all take too? Because coming out of the COVID life, there's definitely that calculation in my head, which is, this would be a great project. The homeowners are very nice. It would be a lot of work. It's not sort of my comfort zone to work in. And do I have the energy to expend to explore something that is this new to either me or to the clients? Because it's a lot of work to try to express the vision to clients too, when it's still sort of rolling in your head, right? When it's still maybe not there. So
totally.
I know for me that's a calculation, which is like, how much psychic energy does this take? What does this, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to, either professionally or personally too?
I agree. Those are really good points, LeAnne. And I think I'm seeing a couple positives and also some definite red flags. So I'll start with the positives. I do think stretching your creativity and getting out of your comfort zone and having something a little interesting and different on your website is a good thing. It could also be a publishable project, something that is new and different for you. So that would be, you could probably create an interesting story out of that. Those are the positives. The negatives, I think the budget is going to be an issue. So if they're already worried, if you're worried about them not being able to afford the furniture, it sounds like this is also going to be pretty time consuming and maybe a little heavier on time than a typical project. And so that's not going to make them happy because clients never really like to pay for our time. So those two things, and then the clients not being on the same page, that's not really fun to work with. It's not always the worst thing, but that's a challenge. That's also time consuming.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And oh man, so how do you make the call? Yes or no? Because once you say yes, you're in it for a year and a half or 2 years, right? Like timelines are so delayed right now. I feel like every yes is a 2-year commitment. And I'm not sure I want to be in a relationship that long. Wow.
Makes me think of a meeting I just had 2 days ago with a new client. And I was really struggling whether I should take it or not because it's not my ideal project. But this person reached out to me a few months ago, and we had a really nice phone conversation. I mean, I could have talked to this guy for a few hours. Really, really nice. He and his fiance just bought this nice home with incredible views in a nice part of San Francisco. And we really hit it off. And then I got an email a week later, and he said, "I'm so sorry. My fiance decided she wants to go with a client that's right down the street here in the city." And so I was like, "Oh, bummer."
Wait,
okay, well,
you said she wants to go with a client who's right down here in the city. So
sorry. I meant a designer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So she picked someone else. What's
Another
wrong with
design
her?
firm. I know. Well, she didn't have the conversation with me. I didn't get a chance to charm her. So she picked this.
Maybe he spent too much.
firm.
Maybe he spent too much time saying how awesome you were, and she was like, "I'm going to nip that in the bud right now."
Oh, I don't know, because then he came back. They came back to me. So they ended up going with this fancy design firm that has a big name. I was like, "Whoa, you went with them? And now you're calling me back?" And he said, "I just had this connection with you, and you're just a small shop," because right now it's just me. And he's like, "I felt like a little fish, or what's the saying? Like a small
big fish in a small pond."
Yeah,
fish in a big pond or something. Yeah,
he was the small fish in a big pond because like this firm had big clients, and he didn't consider himself a huge project. So he just felt like they weren't getting back to him timely, and they were, they had put a junior person on his job, and so he's not working with the designer. And I think a lot of times clients think when you hire a designer, you're going to get to work with that designer. But at some of these firms, you get assigned a project manager or a designer that ends up being your main point of contact.
So did he called you back to say maybe they made the wrong choice?
Oh, yeah. He said, "You know what? I think I'll get better like one-on-one with you. And we had such a great connection. Like, I'd love to explore working together." So we made an appointment. I went over there and met him. And we talked for 3 hours because he's a talker. That's his personality, and which is a little bit of a red flag.
Wait a minute. I am so confused. Where's the missus in all of this? And what 3 hours did you spend? This is when the podcast takes a very severe U-turn. What's going on here? LeAnne, jump in here.
No. Well, okay, he did want to have the fiance there, but couldn't get on her schedule. She's a nurse and was working. I'm not feeling any weirdness in that way at all. No. He talks about her constantly nonstop. So it's not that. But he wanted to go through every single thing he did with the other design firm with me and get my opinion on it.
Oh, so were you under contract at that point, and were you being paid for this time?
I was getting paid for my time, but I hadn't had him sign a contract yet. I hadn't officially said, well, yes to this project. But at this point, I felt like I couldn't say no, because he already told the other design firm he was leaving them. And I had come over to just kind of like get in, get caught up. But he loves to talk so much and really wrote me in. And now I'm like, this isn't really my style. He wants to work in a collaborative way that I don't have time for right now. I have all these other projects, and you guys
Look
are shaking
faces.
your heads. No.
Both of us are like, no, collaborative.
And then he brought in his little brother. Then his little brother rings the doorbell, and his brother's moving in downstairs because this guy owns the building, just bought it, and his brother needs a bathroom and then a bathroom remodeled, and then a new bathroom added to his unit. And his brother's personality, I hope that they don't ever hear this, it's not like the type that I want to work with. Very hesitant and skeptical of me. Right.
I'm so confused.
I was like, I didn't know I was going to be interviewed by him.
Right. And how you weren't being interviewed if you were being paid. How did you get paid for those 3 hours of your life you're never going to get back?
I'm going to invoice. I'm going to add it to my monthly invoice.
So you're only going to get paid if you take the job.
No, he'll definitely pay me if I don't want it.
Okay.
But I was thinking I'll probably just do it.
Oh, stop. LeAnne, help.
Well, I would love to say that I've never been in that position where I felt like sort of compelled to take a project because of the way a process sort of turned janky somewhere along the way, and it seemed really good at the beginning, and then halfway through you're like, oh my gosh. I'd love to say that's never happened to me, but it's not the truth.
Sure, for sure.
And then, like, I think too, like, I don't know how you feel, Laura, is that sometimes I feel like you can see a disaster coming and looming for clients. Mm-hmm. And you're in a position of expertise and knowledge, and you can sort of see it coming for them. And you're like, you want to rescue them from themselves. Mm-hmm. And you want to like come in on your, white horse and, your sword flying, and you want to just slay these dragons for these people because you can.
Right.
However, those are the projects that are like the vampire projects. So those are the ones that are draining. They don't have like the return for me, either monetarily, so financially, or in any sort of design, satisfaction. Like those are the ones that you just like turn up on your calendar and you roll your eyes so far back in your head and you're like, I can't deal today. And so that would be, I recognize this. Like, it's just like, I recognize it. And I'm in a similar position with this meeting that I had yesterday. And I mean, he just sent a message asking me what's my answer? Am I taking the job? And that to me is a red flag. I'm like, I didn't even it's been less than 24 hours and you want me to respond to whether I want to take your kind of interesting job, but you don't have enough money. So I'm like, I'm not sure that this is the way I want to set the standard for our relationship. And so that's the other thing. And this really great designer I know once said, I'm here to help. You have to let me lead in order to help. And in this particular case, I wouldn't be leading. And I know that for me, that would put me in a position where I wouldn't be happy coming to work every day. And that really is the focus of where I want to be going forward, is I want to be happy working with my clients. I want my clients to be happy. And I can't always make my clients happy by the work that I do. So if I sense that there's something else rumbling, that's the other thing where and I know that you think that everything, like your sense from this potential client for you is good, and that you'll get paid, and that the wife will come on board with the husband when you eventually meet her. I would say that is a rumbling of something that is maybe undefined at this point, but I would kind of be aware of.
It's true. It is a little strange that she wouldn't be excited enough to want to be part of this meeting.
Well, she already even
and that he's sort of forging ahead without her.
Right. And she already put the kibosh on it once. So what happened since then? Is she disappointed to not be going with the big fancy title named firm? Is he doing an end run around her? Who's the brother? How strange to have this new character introduced in the middle of the season. You know what LeAnne said is so true.
It was so weird.
Yeah. Right? Like, oh, hey, okay. Any other siblings who need a new bathroom? You know what LeAnne said is true. Like, already you're not leading the project. You're not even in your process right now. You spent 3 hours talking to this guy. You don't have a contract. You think, oh shit, my phone's ringing. Hang on 1 second. You think he's going to pay you, but you actually don't know that he's going to pay you. And you have no legal grounds for even billing him. You don't have any kind of contract or whatever. Like, to me, like, that's way out of process. But one thing you guys said is this feeling that you're compelled to take the project because, and that is overwhelming me with these two people. I went to the consultation. I met them. I feel like I have to take the project when there's something in me that's just saying, just don't do it.
Yeah. Are you feeling that, Kimberly, with your project?
I'm feeling like I should say no, but it feels wrong. It feels like they already spent time waiting. They waited 6 months for a consultation because of COVID. 6 months.
Yes.
And so now to turn around and say, sorry, I'm not the designer for you. It's one thing when you don't like the people, when you know you can't make them happy, then you say, I'm not the right person for you. But in this case, they're going to say, wait, no, you are. I know they are. So I feel guilty saying no.
I get that, like that compelled notion, and you can help, you can do a great job, but you just maybe at what expense? Like, that's the other side of it too. And like, it sounds like it's a distance project. So there's going to be some travel time that's going to be included. If the budget is already tight, like at what point are they going to sort of create an inflection point where they're like, oh, you don't have to come. You don't have to come to site. We're good. We're good without you, when you know that you have to be there so that they can save on some funds. Again, I hate to kind of harp on it, but for me, it's all about like, will it make you happy to do this job? If you're compelled to say yes because they're nice people, well, you're a nice person too. Like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be happy. Like, why should you sacrifice what your wants and needs are to make another couple happy? And honestly, in the end, will you be able to make them happy? So I once had a client who, very difficult client, lovely person, very difficult client, but she was very upfront and honest. And she's like, just disappoint me early. Tell me no early in the process, because I don't want my expectations to be raised only to be dashed. And I think that's something that runs through my head constantly now when I deliver bad news. And it's always like, I'm going to disappoint you early, and I'm going to say no now, because I cannot make you happy with, the combination of, the project details and scope and your budget. Like, I cannot. Like,
I think you have the perfect excuse, Kimberly. It's not your style. It's just, you can just say, this is probably going to take me a little longer to source and to put together a design than typical, because it's not what I'm used to. And it's really stretching my comfort zone or something along those lines. But I used that line with somebody recently who I really did not get a good vibe from over the phone. And then they showed me what they had existing. And I said, oh, you know what? It's really not my style. And I can usually do other people's other styles, but that's one that's really would take me a long time to do a nice design for you. So right there, I mean, that's a client would really appreciate knowing that it's going to be more expensive to work with you. And then maybe if you can refer somebody.
Yeah, refusal by referral. That's what I was just thinking is like, I'm not the good one for you, but here are 3 potential designers that I know that might be able to manage this better for you.
Here are 3 designers I don't like, and any one of them will be like, that feels like, oh my God, who am I going to give it? That would be, I don't know. That's interesting because I can't think of anybody I would say like, you should do this project because it's so you. There's something wrong. I think there's something wrong, and I think I should trust
you have to remember that you're just referring someone and that their process to accept the job comes into place and supplants anything that you may have said. To me, it's like if another designer referred a project to me, which has happened just recently too, it would be like, thank you for sending them my way. Just to let you know, I'm just going to go through my own process to accept them. If they're right for me, then they're right for me. But if they're not, like, maybe give them 2 names or something like that so that they can do a little bit of their own background work too.
Laura Elliott and LeAnne Bunnell. Those are the 2 names I'm going to give them. Everything can be done on Zoom nowadays. Well.
Yeah.
Where did you say the project was?
It's so funny. Like Laura said this, like, what happens if they would hear this? Right? Like that would be so awkward and uncomfortable.
I know. There's a good chance, Kimberly, for you.
Don't you think most clients appreciate the effort that we take to determine whether we can make them happy? Like if we took every job that came our way, like, nobody would be happy. We wouldn't be happy. They wouldn't be happy. Like it really is, about finding the right fit. And if you're not the right fit, there's no way that you can make it work.
So what's supposed to happen now is I promised them a flat fee contract, which is right away. I'm already not in my process because normally I just whip it out of the bag and we seal the deal on the spot. They don't know that, right? They don't know that that's not part of my process. So I've been sitting on this contract thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I think the answer is I'm not sending the contract because it's not a good fit. So you guys help me with that. Thank you for that. Laura, what are you going to do with Mr. like fiance in the background and brother in the basement?
Oh my gosh. Well, my gut is telling me that I think the guy who wants to hire me I think it's going to be, it ended up being kind of a small project because the other firm did quite a bit already. So I feel like I want to help him finish it, but I don't think I want to take on the other project, which he baited me with, I have to say. I didn't know it was really going to be his brother, but he said, there are 2 bathrooms downstairs that I'd like to remodel, and that'll be kind of a big job for you. Yeah, but then when I meet the brother, he said, I want this to be really simple, like really like just nothing fancy. And I was like, well, that's going to be a bummer for me. I don't want to do a really cheap, boring bathroom.
I don't like
the other one, the master.
I don't like that he thinks I don't like that he thinks 2 bathrooms is a big project for you. I don't like him.
I know. I don't
like him at all. LeAnne,
throw in your kitchen.
Well, I think, again, it comes down to when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. And it's like you have to make sure that what you're saying yes to serves you and your purpose too.
It's so interesting. I continue to think I'm the only one having a particular problem. I reach out to you guys and you both say you've had a similar situation recently, not even like in the past 20 years, but like recently. So I got to figure other people listening are in the same position and feel bad saying no and don't want to listen to their gut and are easily put out of their process. Like, what an interesting bunch of crazy people we are.
I find my curiosity gets the best of me. Like, I get curious about something. I get interested, like the project, this one, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. My first response was kind of like, oh, not in our wheelhouse. But then you start thinking through it. It's like, oh, well, I'll take a look at it. Like, I'll see what's up. And, and I really shouldn't put myself in that position because I get charmed by the people. And I get into this like, oh, I can totally help you. I get like in my rescue mode. Yeah. And, today this was, I mean, I'm going to say thank you for this today, because I think this helped me put like a fine point on my decision-making on this project too, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm being swayed by really nice people. I'm being swayed by an interesting project that would stretch some skills. But in the end, I think it will be a vampire project and no one will be happy. And so I think that's helped me. So thank you, Kimberly. Your problem has helped my problem.
Yeah. It sounds like two of us are kind of a no and Laura might kind of be a yes. So it'd be so fun to find out how Mr. Brother in the Basement Hidden Fiance goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really on the fence. I'm leaning more no right now after this conversation.
Oh, your gut is saying no? Oh my gosh, run like you're on fire. Oh my gosh, I just answered my own question. Run like you're on fire. There is a middle ground. The middle ground would be this is my expertise and this is what I'm willing to do. I'll have nothing to do with Brother in the Basement, period, full stop. And see how he handles that. If he goes, okay, I respect that. We'll take it. You could limit your involvement to what feels right for you. And if he fights back against it, then you've really made the right decision by getting out of there.
Can I ask your opinion on how I would phrase the no to the brother? Because really my gut is saying he's not going to be easy to work with, but I don't want to say that to him.
Well, you don't even is Mr. Hidden Fiance Brother in the Basement paying for the brother's bathroom?
Yeah, he did say he was going to do he was going to pay for most of it. Yeah.
Ooh, most is complicated.
So it is kind of the same project.
It's complicated. No, you say, no, LeAnne, no is a full sentence.
He really needs to get
this. This is the scope of the work I can help. This is the scope of work I can help you with, and the rest I cannot help you with.
This is what I have room for in my schedule. Right now, I have other projects that will take precedence over this. And, it's really nothing that I can help you with at this time. I'm willing to take over X, have a very specific scope of work for whatever you want to do upstairs. But then for the basement, just, you can just say, I just don't have room for that in my schedule. I have planned projects that are already slotted in for this time, and I won't be able to get to it for at least 2 years.
Okay. That's perfect.
I like that. That's really good. And then he calls you in 2 years. His brother's still in the basement. His fiance is still hidden. What the heck is going on with this guy?
Or the fiance's in the basement with the brother. Like, this could be a scandal.
That's like a Netflix show.
Never go there.
Never go there.
Okay. No. I think that's my plan. I'm going to do that. I'm going to say, and it might be best if he just has one designer do it all. If he can't have me do the downstairs, then, I wouldn't be offended if he wants to look for someone else.
And there it is. The title of this episode, 3 No's.
Yeah. Wow.
That's crazy.
Good therapy.
You guys, thank you so much. I truly was just like, oh, I feel bad saying no, like all the crap you do. And the answer is just flat out, absolutely not no. No.
Yeah. Same here.
Thank you for being part of the Business of Design community and supporting BOD's mission to improve the industry one design business at a time. It's time for you to take the next step and join Business of Design. Like thousands of design professionals in 50 countries around the world, you'll find the systems, strategies, and protocols you need to dramatically improve your business and transform your life. What are you waiting for? Start today.